Look closely at the society you are currently surviving in. It is a world that absolutely demands your constant, unbroken visibility. You are told that to be valuable, you must be seen. You must reply to every message instantly. You must broadcast your opinions. You must show up to every argument, defend your reputation, and constantly update the people around you on your mental and emotional state. Ordinary people are completely addicted to this cycle. They believe that if they fade from view, even for a moment, they will be forgotten and lose their perceived value. They equate presence with power. They are entirely wrong. The profound, counterintuitive truth is that total visibility is the absolute fastest way to become a target. When you are always present, always explaining, and always reacting, you become nothing more than predictable data. And predictability is the exact mechanism that allows other people to control you. Most people do not lose their minds because of severe trauma. They lose their minds because they allow 100 different people to rent space inside their head every single day. They seek psychological safety by trying to please the crowd, and in doing so, they hand over the keys to their own nervous system. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that true power is never fully visible. It operates from the shadows. To achieve ultimate leverage, you must master the art of mental disappearance. This is not about physically locking yourself in a dark room or becoming a cruel, isolated hermit. It is about a high-level behavioral calibration. It is about being physically present in a room while your mind remains completely untraceable, completely unreadable, and absolutely untouchable. You are going to learn how to sever the invisible emotional cords that people use to pull your strings. Before we go deeper into this psychological architecture, you must make a commitment to your own mental fortress. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I embrace the shadows. Let us examine the first critical flaw in the ordinary mind, which is the desperate illusion of availability. You have been conditioned to believe that you must be accessible to everyone at all times. When your phone vibrates, your brain demands that you check it. When someone asks you a question, you feel a deep, burning obligation to provide a thorough answer. You hand over your time and your mental focus to anyone who simply asks for it. This behavior is rooted in a deep fear of rejection. You seek psychological safety by proving that you are reliable and constantly present, but reveal the dark psychological truth of this habit. By being unconditionally available, you actively lower your own status in the social hierarchy. You teach people that your time is cheap and that your boundaries are non-existent. You become an easily accessible resource rather than a highly valued individual. When you are always there, people stop respecting your presence and begin to expect your compliance. The Machiavellian solution to this trap is to initiate a complete withdrawal of your mental availability. You must become a ghost in the machine. Stop replying instantly. Stop answering questions that do not benefit you. When someone demands your attention, introduce a heavy, deliberate delay. Let them wait. Let them wonder if you even saw their attempt to reach you. By controlling the access to your mind, you force them to recognize that your attention is a premium asset that they must earn. You are physically there, but mentally, you have stepped back into the shadows. Ask yourself honestly, how often do you interrupt your own focus, your own peace, just to answer a text from someone who adds absolutely zero value to your life? Every time you do that, you are volunteering for mental slavery. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My access is restricted. This seamlessly brings us to the second shift, which is the weaponization of your own personal data. The average person is a chronic oversharer. They cannot tolerate the tension of being misunderstood, so they eagerly explain their motives, their weekends, their past traumas, and their future goals to anyone who will listen. They believe that by being open and vulnerable, they are building deep connections. But in the ruthless reality of power dynamics, they are simply handing live ammunition to their enemies. When you tell people how you feel, what you fear, and what you desperately want, you give them the exact blueprint required to manipulate you. You remove all mystery. The Machiavellian operator understands that to become untouchable, you must strictly guard your internal world. You must stop updating the world on your mental state. Let people operate on outdated information. If they think they know you based on who you were a year ago, let them believe it. Their false assumptions are your greatest tactical advantage. When you disappear mentally, you stop offering personal details. You speak in broad, calm statements. You ask questions rather than providing answers. You become a mirror, reflecting their own insecurities back at them while keeping your own psyche entirely hidden. Manipulators thrive on your emotional data. When you starve them of that data, their tactics completely collapse. They cannot push your buttons because they no longer know where the buttons are. Ask yourself honestly, why do you feel a burning need to explain your personal life to people who are secretly competing with you? Why do you hand them the exact map to your vulnerabilities? Drop this affirmation in the comments. My life is classified. We must now address how you handle direct conflict, which is where the vast majority of people completely expose their weakness. When an ordinary person is insulted, challenged, or disrespected, their ego instantly takes over. They rush to defend themselves. They raise their voice. They try to prove their worth to the person who just attacked them. They mistakenly believe that fighting back is a display of strength. The dark truth is that reaction is the ultimate form of submission. When you react emotionally to a provocation, you are confirming that the other person has the power to dictate your internal state. You are letting them control the tempo of the interaction. You are dancing exactly to the aggressive music they decided to play. To become truly untouchable, you must apply the strategy of calculated inaction. When someone attempts to provoke you, do not defend yourself. Do not explain why they are wrong. Mentally disappear from the argument. Look directly into their eyes with absolute, freezing indifference. Pretend that you are observing a bizarre psychological experiment rather than participating in a fight. Let their angry words hit a wall of absolute silence. By doing nothing, you completely destabilize their attack. You deny them the emotional payoff they were seeking. Tension is a weapon, and when you refuse to absorb it, it bounces back and entirely crushes the person who threw it. They will become increasingly frustrated, erratic, and desperate to get a reaction out of you, while you remain perfectly still. This is the ultimate display of dominance. Ask yourself honestly, how much of your precious energy is wasted trying to win arguments against people who are committed to misunderstanding you? Drop this affirmation in the comments. I control the tempo. This level of discipline requires the total development of emotional immunity. Ordinary people are incredibly fragile. Their entire day can be completely ruined by a single sarcastic comment, a perceived slight, or a lack of validation from a peer. They walk through life like exposed nerves, constantly absorbing the chaotic energy of the environment around them. This makes their positioning incredibly weak. They are constantly adjusting their behavior to avoid emotional pain. But the person who has mentally disappeared has built an impenetrable psychological fortress. Emotional immunity is not the absence of feeling. It is the absolute refusal to let your feelings dictate your strategic movement. When you observe the toxic behavior of others, you do not internalize it. You label it. You look at a manipulator and think, this person is trying to use guilt to extract a favor. You look at an aggressor and think, this person is projecting their own severe insecurities onto me. By intellectualizing their behavior, you mentally step out of the blast zone. You are no longer a victim of their actions. You are a cold, detached observer of their predictable human flaws. They can scream, they can threaten, they can spread rumors, but because you have mentally vacated the premises, none of it actually touches your core identity. You watch them burn their own energy while you conserve yours. Ask yourself honestly, how often do you let the toxic, unhealed behavior of a completely irrelevant person dictate your mood for an entire day? Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am emotionally immune. The next critical phase of becoming untouchable is the mastery of your own absence. Society teaches you to constantly push your way into circles, to network aggressively, and to make sure your presence is always deeply felt. But Machiavellian strategy dictates that absence is far more powerful than presence. When you are always around, your value is taken for granted. People assume you will always be there to fix their problems, listen to their complaints, and carry their emotional baggage. To regain your power, you must strategically remove your presence. You must learn how to leave the room, both physically and psychologically, at the exact moment people expect you to stay. Do not announce your departure. Do not provide a grand explanation for why you are pulling back. Simply fade out. Let them feel the sudden, jarring void where your energy used to be. When you selectively disappear, you force people to recalibrate their understanding of your worth. They begin to realize that your attention is a privilege, not a fundamental right. They start to chase the validation you are no longer freely giving. This is the dark architecture of human desire. We obsess over what we cannot fully grasp. By withdrawing your mental and emotional presence, you become an enigma. You become the person they cannot figure out, and therefore, the person they respect the most. Ask yourself honestly, are you exhausting yourself trying to maintain a permanent presence in the lives of people who do not even appreciate your basic existence? Drop this affirmation in the comments. I weaponize my absence. Finally, you must reach the ultimate psychological state, which is the death of your desire to be validated. The only reason anyone can ever touch you, manipulate you, or hurt you is because you want something from them. You want their approval. You want their love. You want them to think you are intelligent, kind, or successful. As long as you desire their positive perception, they hold a leash around your neck. The moment you mentally disappear is the moment you cut that leash. You accept that you cannot control what they think of you. And more importantly, you realize that their opinion has absolutely zero bearing on your actual reality. When you no longer care if you are the villain in their heavily distorted narrative, you become a terrifying force. You can sit in a room full of people who dislike you, and your heart rate will not rise a single beat. You can walk away from a toxic dynamic without looking back, because you do not need them to understand why you are leaving. You achieve a state of pure, absolute self-reliance. This is what it truly means to be untouchable. You are not hiding from the world. You are simply no longer playing by its weak, emotionally driven rules. You have rewritten the code. You observe, you calculate, and you move with absolute precision, unaffected by the noise, the drama, and the desperate manipulation of the masses. Ask yourself honestly, are you ready to stop being a fragile participant in other people's games and start being the untouchable architect of your own reality? Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am untouchable. You have just been handed the exact psychological blueprint to completely disappear from the manipulative games of society and become a truly untouchable force. You now understand the profound danger of being constantly available, the critical necessity of guarding your personal data, the raw power of calculated inaction, and the absolute freedom of emotional immunity. But simply listening to these words changes absolutely nothing. Here is the harsh, unforgiving truth. The vast majority of you watching this video will do nothing with this information. You will feel a temporary rush of power right now. You will nod along to these concepts. But tomorrow morning, when your phone buzzes with a demanding text, or a toxic coworker tries to bait you into an argument, your fragile discipline will shatter. You will instantly revert to your old, weak, people-pleasing patterns. You will react. You will over-explain. You will hand your power right back to the people who are quietly draining your life. Do not be like the masses. Do not let motivation be a temporary feeling that evaporates under pressure. Transformation requires cold, ruthless discipline. It requires you to consciously override your weak programming every single hour of every single day until this untouchable mindset becomes your permanent reality. If this video shifted something deep inside your psychological framework, hit the like button. Subscribe to the Human Code right now to continue mastering the dark reality of human behavior. Share this with someone who is still trapped in the exhausting cycle of trying to please everyone. Remember this: stop acting nice to survive. Start playing smart to lead.